Welcome to another S&P 500 analysis. Today is October 6, 2021. This is a midweek edition. So is the S&P 500 walking the line or hanging on the line? We're going to take a look at the S&P 500 and the other major market indexes price action and see is this pullback is coming to its end or is there still more to go? And is this pullback going to turn into a little bit of a correction? So we'll see. So stay tuned. Now, before we begin, I just want to refer you to my Twitter channel. You might want to go and pay a visit there when you have time. And my handle is smtraderCA. So doing between video, I also post a lot of chart of what I'm looking at and some of the levels, some of the trade that I'm doing. So for example, you could take a look at this right here, which I have, chronicle a recent trade that I did on the SPY here. And you can see exactly what I was thinking and what was I, what are some of the levels that I was trading, and also some of the market, observation, and also this market profile that I post every evening to indicate some of the level to watch if you are trading on the E-mini S&P 500, or even if you are trading on the SPY. These will give you some level to keep an eye on to watch for potential price reaction. So you might want to just come by and pay a visit if you are not following me or have no idea that I'm actually on Twitter and post all these informative stuff that you might be able to use. So take a look. Now, as you can see from this tweet here last night, I basically put out a tweet. Let me go back to my tweet that I put out earlier. So here, yesterday, I put out a tweet to say, watch for the possible test of the 431. Okay, let me pop this over. This is the 431 level that I'm talking about. Okay, so watch for that 431 to get retest. Then here we see today, this is what happened today. You see that it gapped down and came down to 428.7, close to that level, and then come back up. And immediately it got rejected again. So you can see that this was support here, and it was before that a little bit of a resistance turned support, and right now it also turned into resistance here and rejected down to this low here that also a possible strong support at 427.24, and it bounces back to once again to this near this 431 level, and it just kind of bounced around for the entire morning until afternoon, after the lunch hour. Then it broke through, and you can see that it came up to this 434 level here, right? This basically this resistance here that was support and now become resistant. And you can also see that later on this level has some significance on the ES. So going back and look at the close here, here is the where it closed. It closed near the 435, closed at 434.91. So this is a little level that we want to keep an eye on for tomorrow on this 435. And this is the new high, new low. You see that there are much more new low now than new high. So in the New York Stock Exchange today, it finished off with 68 more new 52-week low than 52-week high. And also the up-down volume ratio was in favor of the down volume by a ratio of 1.4. And the VIX, although the VIX came down a bit because earlier today it was up at 24.18, and today it closed at 21.03. So as you can see, because in the afternoon the market came back up, so obviously the fear is also have dampened a bit. And the put call ratio came back down, dipped below the 0.75, finished off at 0.7. So it's still a little bit high, but it's outside of that zone, below that 0.75 to 1 put call ratio zone. And the advanced decline actually came back quite a bit because early in the morning it was 2,227 more declining issue than advancing issue, and it finished the session with only the decliner leading the advancers slightly by a margin of 385. Now I'm just going to quickly run through the internal and just kind of highlight some of the trend here. You can see on the SP500, this is daily chart here. We'll take a look at it, this price action in a little bit more detail later on after we finish looking at these sentiment and internal. So as I said, the sentiment came down to 21 and the put call ratio was 0.7. And here the up down volume ratio 1.4 in favor of down volume. Advanced decline, decliner lead the advancer by 361. And the new high, new low, 101 new 52-week low versus 33 new 52-week high today. So you can see that the 52-week low has been coming up. And here's the cumulative advanced decline. We are still noticing a little bit of a positive divergence here. We're still seeing this positive divergence. And you can see that could be forming a little bit of a double bottom close here on the S&P 500. But again, we'll take a look at it a little bit more detail later on and see is this any significance. Now here looking at the NASDAQ 100, the NASDAQ 100 closed with a positive 1.45 or 1.43 up-down volume ratio. So the up-down volume ratio was favor of the up volume, but the advanced decline with 991 more declining issue than advancing issue today. But the NASDAQ did close up 92 point. But unfortunately, the new high, new low doesn't look that good for the NASDAQ market. So you can see there's a margin of 233 in favor of the new 52-week low. And here we are seeing a negative divergence on the accumulative advanced decline line here. The NASDAQ 100 went up, the AD line actually went lower. Now let's take a look at the price action for the S&P 500. On this daily chart here, as you can see, ever since that broke this level here, somewhere around 43.70, been trying numerous times to try to get back above it inside of this balance area that it broke through. Right? At the initial onset, when it broke and sold off on that Monday, we saw a nice reversal and came back up to just a little bit about this 38.2 retracement and got rejected. Then it formed this descending trend line here. So right now, it is still trying to get back above this 43.70. So it is hanging in there, and also it is hanging in on this 43.04, this pivot low here. You see that it dipped below this low quite a few times already, but every time that it dipped below, it sort of kind of snapped back, except right here, right? But it snapped back, but it's still unable to get back to this 43.70 area. So here's what we're going to be watching in the coming days is that would it be able to come up and retest this 61.8, essentially somewhere around this 43.96 or 4400 level, and that will bump up against this trend line here. It needs to break this trend line and then move above it, then retest this 38.2 if it is going to reverse this trend here and telling us that this pullback is completed, has been completed, and is ready to go back up. But if it doesn't, let's say even though it come up and break above this 43.70 and get rejected at this 4400 level and pushes back, then the next time it breaks this 43.04 or 4300 level, then we're going to be watching these levels down here at 42.55 and 42.32. That's basically these pivot area here, this pivot low and this pivot high here. Okay, so we're looking at this zone, and that is in confluent with this 127 extension, the 42.39 level here. So basically, we'd be watching for that 42.40 area. Okay, anywhere between 42.50 and 42.30 will be in play if the S&P 500 break below the 4304 level. So keep an eye on that. That will be a critical level. Now take a look at this from this low here to back to the peak, okay, that is only a 5.87% pullback. So that we are not anywhere close to the correction yet. If it pull back from this high all the way down to this level here, basically coming down to this 127 extension, we're essentially talking about a 7% or a 300 point or so pullback. Only when it get down to here at this level, when it get close to this 161, near the 4155, we're talking about a 9% pullback. So still 1% or so shy of that correction threshold of 10%. And we're only talking about, pulling back 380 points. And when it gets down to here, then I think the market will be pretty fearful by that point. At least a lot of these, newbies, thinking that the market only goes up will probably, be wondering what the hell is going on here, right? And that will be a 12% correction. And that will be somewhere around 485 points. So pay attention to that. But right now, we're essentially looking to see would it be able to find support here if it break below the 4304, between 4250 and 4230. Those are the level that's shown to keep an eye on, okay, when it breaks this 4304. And it looks like it's going to be bouncing around a little bit and frustrate the bulls and the bear a little bit more. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it come up and tag this, close to this 4400 level before it get rejected back down once again to this 127 and come down to this 4250, 4230 area. All right, so that is the S&P 500. And here looking at the NASDAQ 100, as you can see, the NASDAQ 100 came down to this trend line and found a little bit of a support here, bounced right back. And right now it's still hovering between this 127 and 141 zone. So we're going to see would it continue to come up to this 141 or basically near the 14,850 level. Essentially getting close to this trend line here, this descending trend line, and see does it get rejected and then come back down, back down and retest this trend line here. And if we break that trend line, then we're basically looking at this 14,073, right? But if it break above this trend line, we still be looking at this gap to see would it get filled by this gap, and also a possible rejection up here in this area between 15,344 and this gap here, basically in between this extension 1618. So we're basically looking at 15,200 on the upside to see where we'll get rejection near that area. But I'm looking at the first rejection level will be somewhere around this 14,900 or 14,850. If it continue to move up, bounce back up and look for this trend line and then pushes back down, dip below this 14,600. And once this low is taken out, then we're going to be looking at this 14,073 and possibly down here to this 13,713. And look at the Russell 2000. You see the Russell 2000 got rejected near the 2297 level. Remember, this is one of the levels that we're keeping an eye on and came down. Right now, it is sitting right above this 2195. So it's critical to hold that 2195 because it's been testing that level quite a number of times recently, and if dipped below, and also I got a little bit of a ascending trend line here, a supporting trend line. So if it breaks that, then we're going to watch this 2134 or 2135. So that's the area that we're watching, essentially this balance area that I've been watching. If it break above the 2317, then we got a major move on this 1x of this range that bring it up to somewhere around 25. But on the downside, if it break the 2134, we're essentially looking at the 1950 area down here on that 1x of this range on the downside. So keep an eye on this 2195 and see will it hold. And if it doesn't hold, watch that 2134. Then we'll see much more downside once it breaks that 2134. So right now it's still pretty iffy for the Russell 2000, doesn't it? Just cannot get enough traction or momentum to keep it on the upside, right? So you can see that they also have a little bit of a downtrend here, right? Draw a little bit of a downtrend line here. So it's getting to be a little bit of a wedge or a triangle. So right now, gonna squeeze this either on the upside or on the downside. So watch these key level, 2195. Okay, Dow Jones Transportation. The Dow Jones Transportation is try to come up to this trend line and try to retake this trend line, come back up to this 15,000 area. I am watching it to see what it get rejected back down once again, break this 14,242. If it does, then we basically are looking at this 13,656. If it could break above this trend line, then yes, the 15,000 will be in play. Basically have to keep an eye on that and look for a back test somewhere around this level on this, this breakout pivot here at 14,585. And here in the Dow Jones Industrial, it seems like it doesn't want to give up, right? It just stay inside of this consolidation area, this balance zone here, and just chop around. And so we're going to watch this level here, right? This 33,800. If it comes down to this 33,800, then we'll be looking at this 33,000 area and possibly come down to 32,000. Okay, so right now it seems to be holding inside of this this range here. So if it could get back up to this 35,150 to 35,150, you still have to contend with overtaking this trend line here. So it could come up and get rejected there and then pushes back down, and then we probably will see a break. So if it's gonna move up, that's what I'd be watching for. But if it come down, I'd be watching for this 33,800. If it break that level, then I'm looking at these level down here. And here we are looking at the 10-year yield. As you can see, it's been hovering around this 1.53. So we're going to keep an eye on it to see. It looks like it want to break higher, and it could spell trouble once we get up to this 1.765 area, this upper zone here. So keep an eye on that. And right now, it's appear that it want to head higher. And here we are looking at the US dollar. As you can see, the US dollar is also pushing upward as well. And it is still staying above this 94 level here. Essentially, I'm watching to see what it come up to this level near the 95.7. Then maybe we see a little bit of a pullback and come back down and do a back test of the 94. Now, here's a little bit of a chronicle of the trade that I was watching for crude oil last night. Starting from last night, you see on this 15-minute chart here, okay, this including the overnight session now, and basically was looking for this tweezer top, and when it came down and come up here and unable to move back up, and you see a break below this point of control, this composite point of control. The weak, so far the weak point of control is right up here. Then I'm basically saying that I'm looking for a possibility to go short here, right? To retrace back down to this 78 area here. There is a high volume node down here, and also sort of in confluence with a trend line that is coming up. Okay, so now, and basically I also put in another chart here. This one is the 60-minute chart, right? And you can see that the same price action coming down, right? See break below this point of control, and I'm basically watching for this this level here, this 78, and also you can see this is the weekly rewrap at 78, the week today, right? 78, and here's what I posted this morning, right? You see that it came down below 78, broke this trend line, and also notice that point of control shifted down. Remember, we were targeting a point, high volume node there, and right now shifted down, and it came as low as somewhere around the 77.20, and change. So right now we're basically looking at crude oil could be pulled back a little bit more. So let's go take a look at the price action, the latest price action on that, and see what we could see on crude oil and see where it might go. Now, looking at this chart of crude oil, as you can see, crude was down, and then matter of fact, it put in an outside day today, and was down 2.5% or $1.99 or so. So you can see that it could be coming back into this zone here. I don't believe this uptrend is over yet for crude, but I do see a possibility of a little bit of a pullback, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back down, dip inside of this zone, and probably tag the lower boundary of this zone somewhere around 75 before it might get a little bit push. And if it doesn't, we could probably see this 73 level here between this 73 73 and 73 and a half or so. Right? What is this right here? This is 74 and a quarter, and possibly this area here 73. Right? So basically, so between 74 and 73. So I'd be watching for continuation to push down, and then maybe we get another push up. Goldman did put out a price projection of somewhere around $90. Okay, so we'll see if that come to reality or not. But again, I think there's still a little bit more upside on crude oil, but it is time for a little bit of a pullback or profit taking, because it had a heck of a run since late August. So for the silver market, the silver is still hovering around this 22.72. We're going to see if it be able to come up to this trend line and see if it get rejected back down, because I am still looking for silver to come down to this 1960 or below $20 level. But if it decides to break away and come back up above this trend line, then yeah, it could be coming back up and testing resistance at this 24.71 area. But for now, I think the bias is more on the downside. So I wouldn't be surprised that we could just see this, this sort of price action and continue to come down toward this $20 level before we see a bounce from silver. And for gold, remember we were talking about this inverted head and shoulder, and I was saying this right shoulder is basically too steep, pulling back too much. So I mean, it's still possible, right? It's all depend on different people's different interpretation of what is a valid inverted head and shoulder or head and shoulder type of pattern. So if it could come up and take out this 1826, trace back up to this 1923. But right now, what I'm looking for is a continuation down to this area here at 1716 and 1677. I'm still looking for these lows to get retested. So that's basically what I'm looking for on gold. So as you can see, the SP500 is still trying to finish up what it's trying to do. So we might still see a little bit more downside before it completes its pullback and then reverse back up to possibly retest the high. Now, if you find this video to be informative and useful, be sure to smash that thumbs up to help me promote and share this video on YouTube. Thank you for watching and stay safe.